We will deliver the end-to-end transformation from one hand. That means that we transform our customer via the CX portfolio, via the SAP Public Cloud ERP portfolio, and the data and AI requirements that we will have at this point.
Basically, always the customer has to translate and coordinate different service providers. We believe as NETCONOMY that there is a huge improvement that we can bring to the table when we take more responsibility for this end-to-end story.
SAP provided end-to-end best practices, and I can use as customer end-to-end only in total if I use the whole platform.
The Boardroom Memo, powered by NETCONOMY.
So Patrick, finally we are here. I'm super glad that you joined us to build the ERP practice within NETCONOMY. Let's briefly start with a little bit of your history and your view on the entire ERP business and why you decided to join us. I think it's still early, so you are unbiased and you can give us your perspective without being influenced by our views on this topic.
Yeah, hi Martin, it's a pleasure for me that I had the opportunity to join to NETCONOMY, and I'm very proud that today we are sitting here together. Yes, my name is Patrick. I'm working in the area of SAP consulting for about 16 years. In the past, I had a chance to grow up some teams in the area of the retail consulting, and we implemented several services of the SAP Public Cloud portfolio. So I'm very familiar with the new SAP products, and I decided to join NETCONOMY because it's a great company, and a great company with a very fundamental base for growing up a new ERP practice.
When I look at ERP projects, we see that with a lot of our customers, what jumped into my eye first is that the customers have to donate a substantial amount of resources to just more or less keep alive their ERP basis. And there is a lot of traditional thinking in this ERP space, not only on the SAP side. I think SAP is in a huge transition there, and they already way ahead. It's more on the service provider side and also on the customer side, where you have this center of excellence, and they of course have to focus on stability, but that at a certain extent also hinders them to modernize and improve how they work. And what I always found refreshing is how you look at all this and how you challenge the status quo, basically. So how would you assess the current state of how ERP systems on the customer side are currently seen, how much resources they consume, and also which mindset is involved in working on stabilizing and improving the ERP platform?
If you look at our customers, often it is so that the operations of the system is very expensive. And if you look at transformation projects, the classical ERP backbone is always the slowest component in such a transformation, right? It's so in the past, every customer built up several specific functionality in the backbone. So that means that the ERP system is often very customized. There's no standard process. The standard process often is only on the paper or on the PowerPoint slide, but not in the system. I think now the moment is there that the customers realized that it is good to establish standardized processes for being agility, because the revenue machine is not your backbone. You make your revenue by the customer at the POS or in the web shop, and there you have to invest your business uniqueness and not in the backbone.
All right. When we look at the topics that customer currently face, supporting what you just said, we also see that they have a lot of complexity also in the way they consume services from service providers, where basically the customer always has to juggle between those aspects where, or those points in the infrastructure where the revenue is being generated and the ERP system. So basically always the customer has to translate and coordinate different service providers. We believe as NETCONOMY that there is a huge improvement that we can bring to the table when we take more responsibility for this end-to-end story. And I guess that's also one aspect of motivation that made you join us. So perhaps you can elaborate a little bit on this topic.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So if you look at the classical customer transformation, the customer has to coordinate vendor A and vendor B and bringing them together on the table and taking personally over the responsibility that the process is working end to end together. Our approach will be that we will be the transformation advisor for our customers, so that we ensure that the end-to-end transformation will be gone in the right way, and we will combine the customer experience, the public cloud ERP, and the data and AI capability. Why? Because we are thinking that should be, or that is be the main reason why a transformation would be on the good way by combining these end-to-end thinking.
What is your view on, I mean, we see that with larger customers, the ERP, you already mentioned that a little bit, is somewhat development platform for a lot of stuff within the company. And it evolved into some kind of Frankenstein monster with a lot of different stuff where it becomes difficult to upgrade it. But still there is substantial investment that has gone into this platform, which is difficult to replace, because on the one hand side, it's about people who invented that process, who knew it perfectly well, and some of them might not even be in the company anymore. So you have software where it's difficult to figure out why it's working, but it's working and it's difficult to change. And on the other hand, it's also substantial investment that you have made, which companies think it's difficult to replace that in a greenfield approach. So what is your view on in the light of an end-to-end perspective, building it cleanly up from scratch versus always taking the history with you, but at the benefit of having that history and all the benefits that went into that? Perhaps we can also talk a little bit about this.
Yes, so my personal opinion is that now the time is that the market will realize that it's good to make your house clean. So what does this mean? The basis for innovation will be not only taking the history always with you and focusing on taking the history alive. The focus should be, how can I be ready as company for my transformation and my market requirements for the next years? And after several discussions with our customers, I personally can say that if you look at the companies from our customers, now it is so you can talk about these things, yes, not in every conversation. All people will be happy if you say, okay, now we will not take the historical grown-up functionality of the system, but the point for this discussion is now there.
When we look a little bit into innovation, because you made that pitch, so let me jump on this. We see a lot of customers feeling impacted by AI. So they know they have to invest into AI. The benefits from AI are not there yet. SAP has initiatives in that field where I think after taking several wrong avenues, they are now on the right track. But you don't only have SAP in your infrastructure, you have also other systems. What is your view on this end-to-end story from an architecture and technology perspective, where we are in a reality where SAP takes an important space, but it's not the only player. How do you see this?
My personal view is on that SAP will be the basis, the data foundation and the process foundation for AI. But the real AI game will not be played on every specialized SAP functionality. It will be played by Google, because the Google agentic framework is, from my personal view, leading in this area.
So how would you shape that from a customer perspective? Where would you see the turf of SAP? What would you do with Google? Is not by accident, I guess, because we made the conscious decision to enter in this strategic partnership also with Google, and especially in the field of consumer-related industries. Google is a very strong player because customers anyway have to assign substantial resources from a marketing perspective. But how would you recommend customers to look at this? What can I do with SAP? What should I do with other stuff? And give perhaps some orientation how they strategically separate the resources and see the, let's say, the strategic focus for these different vendor ecosystems. In the end, managing different vendor ecosystems is always a challenge for customers.
I think if you look at typical SAP architecture, it should be so that the process core should be the public cloud ERP, so that you have the flexibility and the SAP standard best practices. For example, if your company grows up, if you make mergers and acquisition, or if you decide as customer that you want to be present at the market with another brand, this should always be taken in the SAP Public Cloud ERP. Combining with this, the SAP Business Data Cloud, the BDC, should be the data foundation for our customers, so that you have at one point standardized your own data enriched to the process things, and you should use the SAP agent to automate the processes in your backbone, so that what does this means? For example, that you can automate and increase the time for closing up your financial period at this time, that you increase the number of automation, and this will be the points where I think the agentic functionality that SAP will be provides should be applied. Every additional and more business specific use cases, I personally think, should build up with other agentic frameworks like Google, but based always on the processes and the data what the digital core of SAP provides at this point.
And it's also a good hook that you opened for me now is, how do you see this digital platform versus backend? So basically CX plus SAP topic. I mean, there are strong players out there on the market like Salesforce and others. There are niche players that have specific areas of this CX space, like for example Adobe. There are new players that come as a best of breed scenario. What's your opinion on the relevance of having this combined and intertwined out of basically one hand versus some kind of best of breed or decoupled approach?
I think by the combining of the SAP CX portfolio and the public cloud ERP portfolio of SAP, that will be the real enabler for the transformation of our customer. Why? SAP provided end-to-end best practices, and I can use as customer end-to-end only in total if I use the whole platform at this point. That means I entered my customers via the CX frameworks. I take always the communications to my customer to the CX or via the CX platform, and if the customer coming to the backbone, for example, for invoicing, I always know it's the same customer at this point. Every best of breed approach, based on my personal experience, has always the challenge that you as company have the point that you must orchestrate. Salesforce works with a public cloud ERP, how the integration works. Salesforce has his own database. By combining the whole portfolio from SAP at this point, we can really transform our customers and really apply the end-to-end best practices.
When I look at the ERP ecosystem, I see a lot of companies, especially in the German-speaking region, I have to admit, because I think that's not always the case in every country, which to me feel, and we can say that here because that's our our personal view on this, a bit saturated. So they basically try to get a lot of complexity from the customers because that increases service revenue, at least short term. That's the case, and allows them to build a lot of complex stuff, which requires the private cloud edition of SAP, because there I can do more than let's say with the public cloud edition, which is more following the SaaS clean core lockdown version. My observation is a little bit that there needs to be an open and transparent and conscious conversation about what really the ERP must have as a differentiating factor when you customize stuff, and where do you use standard processes. And my observation is a little bit that there is a tendency to say, when you're a small business, you can do that with the public cloud, but when you're a large business, that's impossible because you're so special, and there are a ton of arguments why public cloud doesn't work. What's your view and opinion on this?
My view on this point is that public cloud now is ready for smaller end user companies. Why? One of the main aspects of public cloud is standardization and flexibility, including scalability. So standardization, and in every huge company you need standardization. So that means your invoicing process, your financial processes also should be standardized, so that you increase the efficiency of these processes. The specific process requirements and the points you are or the functionality that is your USP, that you could always integrate by clean core side by side extensibility at this point. If you look at user customers, I think personally that the consultants, the role of the consultant has to be changed, because the role of the consultant in the past was, you said it, Martin, taking all the requirements from the customer, designing it, typing it into the system, coding it into the system, and be happy at the end of the year that your revenue increased. By introducing public cloud, the consultant should be a process evangelist. What does this mean? You take the SAP standard process, go into the company and fight the process to the organization, not where you not will be hear the requirements of the customer. It's necessary why the standard best practice offers you the flexibility at this point. So if you look at public cloud in total, it's usable for smaller and for user customer, because it's the base for transformation, where you have standardization and you have a scalability. So that means if you open as retailer, for example, much more stores, your system is scalable. If you decrease the number of stores or you close channels, it always scale down at this point.
One perspective on this, I think it's also that it's not only the consultants that have to change, it's also the way service providers as such need to do that. I think that's also one important aspect that we very thoroughly thought through how to deal with that, where you have to challenge the customer organization. So it's not about taking your requirements like a waiter in a restaurant and build something about it, but really look at the entire company and come up with a hypothesis how it works close to the standard or even without customization. I think one important aspect is also to get the full buy-in from the top management, because in the end, when I look into some of our customers, there is this on the one hand side, there is a substantial amount of IT spend going into just keeping the ERP system alive, and a lot of pushback for things we can't change. But on the other hand, there's a clear need from the top management that we have to get more agile, faster, slimmer, in terms of 7 permutations of the same process are super important, and we have to keep it like that. So I believe it's a mixture of governance with the top management on the customer side, mindset shift where we have to proactively convince the people, probably even a clear framework where you have to justify a business case for modifications that need to be implemented, and also a much more guided project approach where we focus on the benefit for the customer and not just take every requirement as this is how it must be. I guess AI can also help a lot with that process. So perhaps you can share your view, how you envision using. I mean, we have a lot of AI tooling within NETCONOMY. I believe also, and that was always important, not to be just locked into a box by one vendor, but see really where the market is going and then mirror it back. So how are you envisioning using AI in building up our integrated practice?
My personal vision is, and we will share some insights in the next weeks and months, is that we as NETCONOMY will use AI for do a faster transformation of our customer. That means that we will provide automated processes, that we will provide automated deployments of the end-to-end processes across the whole SAP and not SAP portfolio at this point, for example, by playing the organizational data by applying the best practices processes at this point, by applying the change management in the organization, and we will provide some templates to our customers for applying these transformations not only in the project and in the whole organization of the customer.
When we look at the challenges customers are facing in their digital journey, we see, and that's there is interesting research that basically shows that revenues top down in most industries are accumulating or balancing out around the notion of thirds. So 1/3 of the revenue is basically digitally direct, 1/3 is around digitally influenced but across different channels, and 1/3 is traditional revenue. So if that's the case, your end-to-end process landscape becomes super important. And in the past, I often experienced there are things that you can do basically in the front-end layer where you have touch points and create digital revenue, and there are other things which have to be in the backend. I believe that we will also be able to find the right spot for a solution and are not locked into either backend or frontend when to do that. So we can also reduce overall complexity, not just because we take responsibility for an end-to-end landscape, but we can also find the right spot for the problem, which sometimes leads to things that I would normally have done in the backend. I can solve in the front end and at much cheaper cost, because I'm, for example, in interaction with the customer, I can simply raise something and surface it to the customer and ask him, before I have to exception handle that somewhere in the backend. What's your view on this?
Martin, I totally agree at this point. It's that's the core what end-to-end consultancy mean. You take the process, you take a look what's the problem, where does the problem occurs, and then you identify what's the best place to solve this, not only making a quick fix at this point. You're bringing it to a very stable process by applying a fundamental change that the customer will be ready for doing it better in the future.
Since we are starting this new, and I think that fits into what you just mentioned, we are starting this new integrated service. Let's take a bit of an outside-in view. Customers, of course, have different options on the market. There is a huge landscape of service providers. Some are super specialized, some are rather broad. So what will we make different, and what does that mean seen through the eyes of a customer for them? I mean, I could also go to Accenture and say, you can do my CX, you can do my backend, and you can also do data AI, agentic, and Google. Why will we do that better for the customers?
What we will bring always on the table is the NETCONOMY mindset. What does this mean? We will deliver the end-to-end transformation from one hand. That means that we transform our customer via the CX portfolio, via the SAP Public Cloud ERP portfolio, and the data and AI requirements that we will have at this point. The second thing is that we combine specialization with scalability. What does this mean? We always have consultants that are very familiar and very experienced in their area, and we always can scale at this point. What does this mean? If the customer say, I have another problem and I need a more specialized consultant at this point, we are able to deliver, and we don't often have to say, okay, we only have these two guys at this point that can solve your problem. We will combine scalability and specialization at this point.
And we will do that from within one holistic setup. So the customer, I think we will also be able to reduce a lot of complexity, so the customer doesn't have to deal with basically making two teams on the supplier side talk to each other and understand each other, because we inherently embed that into our organization, so that when the customer is talking about us with us about the specific topic, we can make sure that the team that is working for that customer holistically looks at that, and it's not which sub team do I address, and then that's already shaping the solution. We will come up with an end-to-end solution for this. So let's speak a little bit about the myth of lift and shift. I take my crap and just put it into the cloud. What's your view on that?
I personally think lift and shift is not a transformation. Lift and shift is bringing the old shit on a new platform. I think a real transformation should be that you come from a process perspective, that you take a look, what are the processes that are relevant for us, and in which processes we should differentiate at this point. And this is really important for the transformation.
So another topic that comes to my mind is I every now and then have conversations with customers that say, well, will I need an ERP in the future? Because I assume the AI will wipe code it somehow for me, and I can save a lot of money. So what's your view on the strategic importance on an ERP?
I personally think you could use, or you should use AI for building up your own USPs faster. But you shouldn't use AI for building up, for example, your own ERP system, because AI will not provide you out of the box the functionalities for auditing and for being compliance from a legal way. I think the role of an ERP will be another in the future. The ERP will in the future be the basis for your transformation. It will not be the place where you implement your USPs. It will be the backbone that makes the KPIs integrated, and that makes you able to build on top all the things that you use for your for building up your specific requirements.
So would you say that then CX is the layer where you add a substantial part of this differentiating factors?
Yes, the CX portfolio, because that's the point where I really near to my customers. And the second thing, I think in the future there will be placed functionality, some processes at the POS, because you have the customer directly in interaction with you, and they should use this of your way.
So would you say that, given the fact that at the moment there is a lot of, I'm not only talking about subscription and licenses, but also efforts going into the ERP space, would you say a good transformation is also releasing resources that the customer then can also invest in factors that really make a difference, also in terms of revenue, winning customers and so on?
Yes, I totally agree. That will be one of the main thing for success at this point.
All right. We are gifted with being allowed to serve a lot of known and successful companies, but of course we are also in the course of our journey as a company on a constant growth path. What's your view, also still unbiased and from the outside? Why should customers talk to us?
I think customers should talk to us because we are a real transformation partner. We take the end-to-end responsibility for the transformation across all processes and across all products, and do the transformation together with our customer. We are not only another vendor that comes into a project and we are solving this isolated problem. We will be the transformation partner of our customer.
So what are the key ingredients to make a difference with the customer, and what would be the promise that you see when talking to customers? I know what I would say, but I don't want to give you my answer. I rather want to benefit from you still being new with us. What is it what you can really, with all you have seen so far and the colleagues that you have talked to and the experience that you have as a company, that you can really with fully convinced say to potential new customers?
I think we can give the promise to our customer that making a transformation together with us, we are always a partner for the whole transformation. That means that the customer, it's every time in the project knows NETCONOMY is a partner. It's not only a vendor. In critical situations, for example, we are always sitting together on the table and talking about how we can solve this issue, and not was you the reason or was you the reason. For us always is the point how we can solve together this problem for bringing our customer to success.
We are the first of our kind in the sense of we come from the CX space and now built an integrated ERP practice, which is, I don't know of any other company that has done that. Most of them got acquired and somehow assimilated with little left of what was good from the CX space. When you look into what you see within NETCONOMY, what do you think are the top 3 strengths that we bring to the table that help us on that journey that we discussed in the last hour, more or less?
I think the point 1 is our culture. Culture at NETCONOMY is always being often in a discussion, bringing the points on the table and spoke about all things that are relevant. And this is one of our DNA, what we will bring to the projects at this point. The second thing is that we always take end-to-end identification of our consultants with the whole customer and with the whole projects. We are not only focusing on these specialized problem and or issue at this point. We always bring a focus on the relevant topics at this point. And the third thing is that we will bring cool people into the project with a cool mindset, combining with specialization and the power of flexibility at NETCONOMY.
I'm super glad to hear that, and I think we know that we are bringing together things which are somewhat distant from each other, because ERP and CX, also when you look into the ERP, into the SAP world, is not so super close, but I'm pretty sure we are on a good track, and I'm super happy that you joined us. Also, we extended the management team to make sure that all these new aspects are really moving into the company, and I think we had a couple of conversations all around that yesterday. We are fully aware that it's not one culture or the other or one perspective. We need to create something completely new, because that's the only way how we can trustfully consult our customers on their journey. If we can make it for ourselves, how would we do that for the customers? But I'm sure we have with you the right brain, and also we are getting the right people on board, and I'm super curious to see what the future brings together and which joint customers we can serve them. Final word from your end?
Martin, I'm very happy that we are sitting today here and spoke about our vision that we created together, and I think we together looking forward to our actual and our new customer, where we can provide a good player for a really end-to-end transformation.
All right.
All right.